share with you some of my theories about the answers behind the questions that we got to see Agent Wu write down on the whiteboard in the last episode, episode 4 of WandaVision that we got last Friday. So I'm going to dive in about what I think some of the answers for those questions are, and some things that weren't on the board. If you haven't watched episodes 1 through 4 of WandaVision, or if you care about theories about the next few episodes, then you definitely should stop this video and go somewhere else. So the first question we see we write down on the board under what we don't know is why the hexagonal shapes. I've seen a lot of theories about this, and at first I was thinking that this was more of an Easter egg, but then they've actually brought it into the show, not in a metaphorical way. Like, the town is literally encased in a hexagon, so it's got to be more than just a subtle reference to something. My best guess for this is actually, if you go back and you watch Doctor Strange, you'll see something very interesting. The bookcases in Doctor Strange, where the sorcerers keep their spell books and everything like that, are actually in the shape of a hexagon. And in deleted scenes from Doctor Strange, when we see Caecilius and his group of followers trying to contact Dormammu and the Dark Realm, performing this weird ritual, we see them stand in the shape of a hexagon, actually. So my best guess is that a hexagon in the MCU is a lot like a pentagram in the real world, and has some kind of connection to the Dark Realm. So I'm not sure what that really means for Westview right now, but I definitely think that we have this established pattern of hexagons relating to the Dark Realm in the MCU, so I think it's very likely that this is either like an obvious reference to Dormammu, or we're going to see a villain that is pulling their power from the Dark Realm. Whether that's Wanda or Agnes or somebody else there, I definitely think that the hexagon is basically the equivalent of a pentagram, and we're going to see that connection built between hexagons and the magic involved in Westview right now, and Dormammu in the Dark Realm. So the next question I'm going to look at is, why sitcoms? I only have one theory about this, so is that we're seeing Wanda trying to recreate the only version of normal life that she's ever seen, because we know that Wanda's had a very traumatic life. So my guess is that growing up, maybe even while she was in the Hydra facility, she got to see some sitcoms on the TV, and that is her only glimpse into normal life that she's ever had. So she's trying to force all of these people to participate in this fake sitcom reality, because like a lot of people, TV is their vision of what real life looks like. The next thing on the board is same time and space. This is an interesting question because I actually think this has been overlooked in theories a little bit. The question is whether or not inside of that hexagon in Westview, is that an alternate reality? Is that literally jumping through time? Like, are we seeing what Westview was in the 60s, or is Wanda just like changing the aesthetic of everything, kind of like a production designer? I definitely think that it's not a time loop or like a wormhole in time, and we're not jumping through Westview in different decades. I think this is taking place on Earth in the main universe and timeline of Earth in the MCU, and that Wanda's just altering things. I definitely don't think that this is like a portal to a timeline or an alternate universe. The last question that Wu writes on the whiteboard is the one I really care about. The big question for me this series is Vision alive or dead? This is a hard one to answer. At the end of episode 4, we see Wanda look up to Vision, and I'm sure you all jumped. I jumped when we saw a dead Vision, the lifeless Vision from Infinity War, standing there talking like an animated corpse. A lot of people are taking that as confirmation that Vision is dead and Wanda is just puppeteering his dead body around. That's pretty gross. Personally, what I think is going on is we've learned some rules about the physics of Westview, right? Things can change when they come into Westview, and if they're taken out after that, they remain the way they were in Westview. Like when we see the beekeeper, or the agent of S.W.O.R.D. that crawls through the sewers to enter into Westview, the chain or line that they have on him, as he crawls through the field, we see that turn into a jump rope. And then when they pull the chain back out, it remains a jump rope in the real world. So what I think is that while Vision may have been dead after Infinity War, he was definitely dead after Infinity War. Whether Wanda took his corpse into Westview, or somebody else did, or if she just imagined him and conjured him into reality in Westview, he's probably dead right now. But if we see him leave Westview, like we do in trailers for the next couple of episodes, if Vision walks out of that Westview energy field, he will become a real living object in the real world. So I'm just sitting here on the edge of my seat waiting and hoping that we get to see Vision exit Westview, and at that point then I think we can say without a doubt that Vision is alive, been brought back to life by Wanda. While he's inside Westview, if Westview's reality collapses before Vision gets to exit the field, then I think we're facing the harsh reality that Vision is actually dead. But I believe he's going to exit that energy field before the show is over, and we're going to have Vision back to life. Whether or not he'll survive the end of the show, I don't know. I haven't seen anything suggesting that Paul Bettany is going to be in any of the future MCU stuff, so I'm a little nervous, but we'll see how that goes. More support for the reason that Vision is not just a animated corpse is that we see Vision have his own consciousness and interactions with Westview separate from Wanda. Not only does he go to work and town meetings without her, and he has interactions she doesn't know about, right? When he swallows the gum and it gets stuck in his gears, she doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't just resolve it immediately. We have to watch her painfully try and cover for Vision during the magic show because she doesn't know what's happening. So to me that says that they aren't the same. Vision has to be this separate entity from her, and I think we're seeing more and more while her or somebody else that's in control of the town keeps rewinding Vision, making him forget things. After his interaction with Agnes and Herb outside during episode 4, or during episode 3, while Wanda's inside with Monica, we see that he's obviously concerned about the town and knows that something's off. And then when he goes inside, I feel like we can tell that he's suspicious of Wanda. And at the end of episode 4, when we get to see that scene again, seemingly without all of the censorship, we see how nervous and concerned, creeped out even Vision seems by Wanda. You can tell that he is like forcing a smile and looking away nervously. I even heard somebody say that at the end of the episode, it looks like Vision is staring directly into the camera at us, the viewers. So that's very interesting. I think, to me, all of that supports the idea that Vision is actually been brought back to life in Westview. And like I said, as long as he gets to walk out of that energy field of the town, he will be alive again. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is the missing person. After watching episode 4, we get to know that Wu was assigned a case having to do with this witness that is in the witness protection program. Why is that important? Well, it's the whole reason that S.W.O.R.D. goes to Westview to begin with. Now, if you know anything about writing the plot of a TV show, which, maybe you do, maybe you don't, it doesn't make sense to start off a whole story with a witness in the witness protection program and have them go missing and then just have that be just a gateway to explore another story. We know that this missing person has to be very important because they put so much emphasis on him. So the question is, who could be the missing person? We know that most likely they are someone in Westview. However, we get to see them tack up a bunch of the cast members of this Westview sitcom onto the board, and Wu doesn't seem to identify any of them as his missing person. So that implies that it's not anyone on the board, and it's most likely not a character like Dottie that's not on the board but has definitely been featured in the show, because we know that Wu would have seen Dottie on the screen, and if that's the missing person, then he should have recognized her. And we also know that his missing person was referred to as a he, so it's most likely a male, not a female. Unless that's a mistake, but we know Marvel doesn't make mistakes. Whatever. Not that big of a mistake. That would be a really big mistake to make. So, who could it be if it's not anyone on the board and it's not Dottie? I think that the only logical explanation is that our missing person is the person that's been missing from the WandaVision sitcom. Agatha Harkness, or Agnes's missing husband. We hear her talk about Ralph. We know so much about Ralph. We know that when the power goes out, Ralph looks better in the dark, so Agnes isn't bothered by it. This is very interesting because we're constantly hearing about Ralph, but we're never seeing him. And now we've heard about this missing person, but we're not seeing them. So this really heavily implies to me that the missing person, Wu's witness in the protection program, is also Ralph, Agatha's husband. Yeah, I definitely think the missing person is going to turn out to be Ralph. I don't know if that makes him likely to be a bad guy or not, just because it's kind of odd that somebody like Mephisto would be in the witness protection program with the FBI. But who knows? We know that the devil takes on many forms. So, it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure it'll be something convoluted that I can't predict right now. Alright, the next thing we're going to talk about is Wu's list of suspects. The only thing that I can identify in this episode, written under the who's behind this question, is the Skrulls. It's very interesting that he mentions the Skrulls. I definitely think we can rule that out as being a legitimate option for who's controlling Wanda or the town, if it's not Wanda. But I think this is more letting us know that the FBI sees the Skrulls as a possible adversary, and more to set up the Secret Invasion series. So I think no one has to worry about Skrulls, if anybody is worrying about Skrulls as being the big reveal in WandaVision. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's just there to let us know that the FBI knows about the Skrulls and thinks that they could be a threat in the future or imminently. So who's left? Who could our suspects be? Well, obviously, because of all the hexagons and the established connection between hexagons and the Dark Dimension, I think it's safe to say that we'll be seeing Dormammu again. Whether that'll be in Westview in this WandaVision series or in the next Doctor Strange movie, I don't know, but I think whatever we're seeing now is going to be connected to Dormammu down the road. However, I think whoever the villain is of WandaVision is going to be somebody different, somebody more surprising. So I think we should be looking at some of the cast members from the town, and kind of seeing who's suspicious, who could be in town, who could be hiding out, and actually have some kind of nefarious intentions. Obviously, I couldn't make a video about who the bad guy could be without mentioning Agnes, our nosy neighbor from the WandaVision series. Everybody from the beginning of episode 1, I think, recognized her immediately as being Agatha Harkness. There's so many obvious things, from her pendant to, her name. Could they really be any more clear about who she is? I don't think so. I for sure think, based on the trailer where she has that weird interaction with Vision, it seems like Agatha's only going to be featured more and more in future episodes from what we've seen from trailers. I definitely think we're going to see a reveal that she is Agatha Harkness, this witch, and I definitely don't think she's going to be friendly. From the comic books we know, especially House of M, which we know is heavily influencing this show, Agatha definitely has her own motives. She's more there to manipulate Wanda and disguise as a friend, but she's got reasons to want Wanda to do bad things, and I don't think Agnes can be trusted. We know that she is not a good guy. Not to mention, who wears a brooch with the Grim Reaper standing over 2 young children? She's not a good guy. The major one for me Someone who I think is actually likely to be a surprise reveal is Dottie. I know some people have kind of ruled her out as being bad, but who can forget in one of the first 2 episodes when we see Agnes kind of showing her around town, we see not only this kind of rivalry between Agnes and Dottie, but we also see that, obviously Agnes tells Wanda that she's got to kind of get in with Dottie to make it in the town. But I want to talk about their interaction while they're cleaning up. Obviously, Wanda stays behind to help Dottie clean, and Dottie is the arrogant, stuck-up butthead that we all got to see. And as they're having this interaction, we hear Wu come in over the radio, calling out to Wanda, asking her who's doing this to her. And we see Dottie break this glass in her hand. We get to see red blood coming out of her hand. And there's this odd interaction between Wanda and Dottie, where Wanda says, I can assure you I mean no harm. And Dottie says, I don't believe you. And most viewers take this as an interaction between Wanda, who's like an oppressor, and a victim in the town who's kind of breaking through her spell. I actually saw this with kind of a different twist to it. What would be interesting to me is the fact that the radio that Wu is communicating to Wanda over explodes simultaneously with Dottie breaking her glass. To me, this says that maybe Dottie is distracting Wanda by breaking the glass and making Wanda feel responsible for what's going on. Whoever the bad guy is, I think, wants Wanda to think that she's in control. They want her to think that she's the one behind it all, so that she'll be kind of like keeping herself in this little prison. And the best way to do that is to make her feel like the bad guy. So it would be very interesting to see Dottie kind of manipulate Wanda into believing that she is the aggressive, negative entity in the town. It's also interesting to me that Dottie's blood is one of the first things that we see in color in the show. I feel like they stress an importance on that. Usually the only things in color at that point in time in the show, obviously now the town is in color. Originally though, only things that came from the outside world were in color. So the fact that Dottie's blood is red kind of signifies to me that it exists outside of Wanda's fake reality. So it's likely that Dottie maybe isn't a resident of the town. Maybe she is someone, an outsider like Wanda, and that's why she isn't up on the whiteboard with the rest of the identified cast members from the town. When we see them put up and their licenses pinned to the paper describing their activities, we don't see Dottie there. So maybe that's because she, like Wanda, isn't from the town. She's an outsider of some kind, and that's why her blood is red, and maybe even how she controlled the radio made it explode when she crushed the glass. I'd love to see this go down. If you have any theories about who exactly she could be, you could let me know. My best guess is that she would be Mephisto in disguise. And there's always the tried and true theory that, we haven't seen Dottie and the stork in the same room. So that implies that maybe Dottie is a shapeshifter, or Mephisto, and Mephisto takes on the presence of Dottie when he needs to, or the stork when he needs to keep an eye on Wanda without letting her know he's there. So that's interesting. Obviously, I mentioned the stork. We all got to see that Wanda didn't have control over everything in her little world. This is what makes me reject Monica's little statement at the end of episode 4 that Wanda is the one behind it all. Because we can see that Wanda obviously isn't in control of everything. She can't make the stork disappear, and while she can rewind Vision, if she's the one rewinding Vision, she can't seem to control his consciousness. So I think this definitely shows that Wanda isn't necessarily the one behind everything. Alright, one of the last things I want to talk about is who is actually broadcasting this show. Is it Wanda, or is it whoever the bad guy is of this series? Obviously we know that the broadcast is coming through on CMBR radiation, which has a pretty obvious connection to the Infinity Stones and Wanda's superpowers. So, yeah, there's a chance that Wanda is the one broadcasting it. But is she the one censoring the show? This area gets confusing for me. I don't know if it's kind of like, I hate to say sloppy, or if we're gonna see some kind of explanation, but the edits that we're seeing are different from the edits that Sword is seeing. So it's very hard to keep track of what Sword knows and what we know. That's difficult for me to understand why they would make that choice. I don't know if they're just trying to progress the story more for the viewers, but it's odd to me that we would see a different edit and broadcast than Sword is, even as early as the second episode. So I don't know what's going on there. But I have to say, I don't think Wanda is the one censoring it. If Wanda is creating this alternate reality and she wants to live in peace, left alone by Sword and all of these other people, why would she broadcast literally a documentary about what she's doing to all of these poor people in the town for the world to see? Why would she do that? It doesn't make sense to me. I think she would want to stay under the radar. So if she is broadcasting it, I think she's definitely not aware that she is broadcasting it, and I think there's a chance that she's not the one editing it. The first time we see a real rewind, during the scene with the beekeeper, we do see Wanda say no, and then it rewinds the episode. I think that was her rewinding. But then later, in the scene in the living room in episode 3 with Wanda and Vision, where we have this really sloppy jump cut where Vision is starting to tell Wanda that he thinks something's wrong there, and then just jumps back. Wanda kind of looks surprised to me there about that jump cut, like she may not have done it, and it was very different aesthetically from the first rewind, so it's an interesting choice to me that they would approach it so differently if it is Wanda doing both things. So we'll see. But the parts that are cut out, like, why would Wanda, if she knows that Monica Rambeau is a Sword agent, right? That's why she's about to throw her out of town. She expels her out of the energy field by literally breaking 4 walls and shooting Monica Rambeau out of Westview. Why would she then cut that clip out of the broadcast as if Sword's not going to see it? If you're going to throw somebody out who is connected to the agency that is watching you, and definitely going to tell them what happened, why would you then censor that out of the broadcast? It would be pointless. So it doesn't make sense to me that she's the one doing it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. In the next couple weeks, I'll be releasing a video covering everything you need to know before you watch WandaVision, if you don't want to rewatch all of the movies, but you think you may have missed something from their previous history and story in the MCU, so you can keep an eye out for that if you're interested. And thanks for watching.